Now to a computer game that could cure TB. A unique collaboration between Abertay and St Andrews University has produced a digital game that simulates the fight against a global killer. And at the same time, it could lead to new treatments in the real world. This report now from our science correspondent, Kenneth MacDonald.
Tuberculosis may be a relative rarity in the developed world, but it's still a global threat.
For a lot of the poorer parts of the world, it remains a common problem. There are about 8 million new cases every year and about 2 to 3 million deaths. So it's really an important issue today.
Researchers here at St Andrews University are part of the global campaign against tuberculosis. But how can a group of games designers from Abertay help them? Like this.
Play Sanitarium. Learn about tuberculosis.
The players presented a doctor screen, which is a doctor that they're going to be playing through us, and it gives them some information about how many patients they've got to cure, how many patients they're still in treatment, things like that. And then they can go through, and on the next screen they get presented with a world map, which represents patients as red dots across the world. They're given 3 mini games at the moment, which diagnose and then treat the patient. So you play through each of those mini games.
The medical world is quite a dry subject, so trying to make it kind of pop and make it interesting so people kind of want to pick it up and grab it. That's been the challenge.
And have you risen to it?
I hope so. It's been received well, so yeah.
For a typical third-year student project, that would be enough. But this is more than a game.
We're in the fortunate situation now that we're starting to see new drugs coming through for tuberculosis. So we can try those drugs in various combinations. But each clinical trial costs more than $50 million. And there may be 100 different combinations. We can't afford to do that many clinical trials. So if we can actually have a virtual clinical trial which tests the hypothesis whether that will work, we can then select a smaller number of studies that are really worth doing and worth investing in.
That's why, buried in the game, there's a mathematical model. It's been developed at St Andrews to simulate drug trials and cut the cost and length of the real thing.
Well, the science behind it is that with the mathematical model, we have analytics running in the background that basically takes all the information happening in the game, and that includes what's going on with the model, and we can save that and segment that data and give it to the scientists and doctors to look at later. But if they were to come up with a new treatment for tuberculosis and a new mathematical model, we could plug that into the game, we could get players around the world playing it, and then what happens, we can then take that new data set, compare it to the old data set, and there you have a simulated drug trial.
The most difficult thing in a mathematical model is human behavior. And of course, we'll use the people who are playing the game to mimic that idea of maybe today I won't take my tablets, maybe tomorrow I might. So with those sorts of things, the choices that people make, we'll be able to get from having people connected to the game.
For the team's sound designer, Project Sanitarium has a special resonance. He's from Sudan.
There isn't enough medication supplied. And even when there is enough medication supplied, the nature of living in Sudan does not allow the patient to continue on the prescribed period, and that makes the tuberculosis bacteria tolerant towards that certain type of antibiotic, and that's basically the challenge in the developing world.
The team call themselves Radication Games, and they intend to stay together after they graduate to develop a project with a special kind of job satisfaction.
We're doing our best to make it happen, because tuberculosis is still an issue. It's just not as much discussed, unfortunately.
For me, anyway, it's been very simple to realise that players can just help, and just by simply playing the game, they actually can help and engage with other problems that's going on in the world, such as tuberculosis. It is an unknown disease for some of us as well. A lot of people don't realise it's still in the UK as well. So, as I mentioned, by simply having people sitting, playing the game for 5-10 minutes, curing a few patients as well, we're actually helping the actual real-life research of tuberculosis.
They're very, very talented in every respect, as you can see from the game, and even more talented, they make my research seem cool, and that's even better.
The success of a digital game is usually measured in money. For Sanitarium, it'll be in how many lives it saves.